Okay, everybody, now that we have designed our iterative example, the goal for this particular video would be to go and actually apply it to an actual program and see how this all works. I don't think you're going to find anything overly dramatic here, but we'll go ahead and look at that. Before we do, I just want to sit back and look at this one more time, and I hope you see the power of what's going on here with this actual structure, this iterative structure. To me, is one of the most powerful structures. Why? Because when you do come across these situations like this in regards to logic, and you're trying and you have iterative logic in your program, this structure could literally end up saving you thousands of lines of code. If you could, for one moment, if we sat back and we said that we want this thing to do, if loops didn't exist, if we and we said we wanted this thing to actually do something for a certain amount of days, and loops didn't exist, how else could we do this problem? Okay, we want to still double it based upon the days that they're actually entered. Let's think of that for a second. So we don't know how many days were entered, so we would constantly have to check. So we would constantly have to write an if then else statement, right? If days equals this, or if days equals this, and days equals this, and sooner or later we'll hit the day and then we'll stop. But what if it's 100 days or 1,000 days? That code just keeps going on and on and on. But on top of that, we really can't make it dynamic, meaning we're going to have to stop somewhere. We're going to have to stop our program at some point. So we're going to have to tell our user they can't enter more than 100 days or 1,000 days or 10,000 days, whatever it is. And so let's just say it's 1,000 days. When we actually put in our validation, the days must be greater than zero and less than or equal to 1,000. There you go. How many lines of code would we have to write for that? I contend one, two, and then the if condition. I mean, goodness, that's like 5,000 lines of code. Are you following me on that? So in lieu of that, we write this one, two, three, four, 5 lines of code that can deal with as many days as we like, and there's no restrictions. If we want to put 10,000 in, we can. If we want to put 100,000 in, we can. And we don't have to add any more code to it. This loop will take care of it no matter what. This loop is powerful enough to loop through the exact same iteration of the same statements as many times as you want it to. Does that make sense? And that's where the power comes from. That's where the power comes from. Okay, let's go ahead and do what I said before. Let's go ahead and look at writing this thing. Oops, sorry about that. And we'll get into the code here. I had it up here for a second, and there you are. So this is our design here. I have days, and I have my output. I didn't really label that, but I have my output sitting here on what we'll actually we'll put in the total amount that she earned, and then our calculate button. Let's look at our code. Trying to be consistent with everything we've done up to this point. I got a couple of declarations, my inputs and my outputs. Okay, my Boolean validated. I'm going to validate my days. If it's validated, my total pay is going to equal determine total pay, and my display total at the end. Here's my validation. You can take a look at that. Doing the integer try parse. I basically had one piece in here where the days needed to be greater than zero. Makes no sense to do zero. You're not going to make any money if you don't show up, so that doesn't make any sense. And then we go from there. Okay. Now let's come back up and look at my determined total paid. I made it into a function, as you see, correct? And so let's look how I did this here. So in this case here, I got my counter. Then I'm going to set to 1. So I went ahead and made some local variables within this. I set my salary to 0.01 and my total pay I'm going to accumulate. If I wanted to make this into I'm trying to think if I want to make it into any kind of, hmm. No, I don't think I do. I'm sitting there thinking about it for a second. A constant is what I was thinking, but I don't think I do. I just want to make that 1 cent right there to get started within our loop. So I'm kind of priming my loop with this. I'm going to loop through this just like my design said. So my counter is greater than the int days. I'm going to double my salary. I'm going to add to it, double my salary, and then increment. So in this case here, instead of me doing this outside the loop, I'm going to do it for the first time inside the loop. Okay, setting my loop at counter at 1 and then going through it that way. Does that make sense? So pretty much how I have it designed. And then I'm going to return my total pay as a function once again after it goes through the loop. All right, let's go see how this works. And, give me a second here as this thing gets going. Might be time for me to get a new computer. Things are getting slower on this thing. Here we go. All right, so here we go here. I have my numbers of days. If you recall, the first thing we talked about was 5 days. So if I put 5 days in here, this thing should loop through, and there it is, 31 cents. Okay, once again, it looped through this piece. I highly recommend you debug this. Maybe we should spend 1 second showing you debugging in this case. If I don't do it 5 times, I'll just do it 2 times. And if I stick this in here, and let's look at this one more time. And let's go ahead and just put 2 days in here. So it's the little Susie or whatever her name was is going to make what 1 cent the first day, two, so a total of 3 cents. And so let's watch how this works. My days, if I hover over this, is 2. My counter is 1, so it's going to go through, add my salary, a 0.01 to my total pay. I'm going to double my salary, right? So let's see. Let me go through and hit F11 here. And it'll go in there now. So my total pay, whoops, the wrong one there, sorry. There we go. My total pay right now will be 1 cent. Beautiful. I'm going to double it. So once again, and my salary is now at 2 cents. Okay. And then I'm going to add one to the counter. You following this? I'm going to loop back up. I'm going to compare my counter, which is 2, to my numbers of days. It's supposed to be greater than. I'm going to do this until it's greater than it. So I'm not. I'm going to come back in again. And I'm going to add my total pay. Makes it 3 cents. Perfect. I'll go ahead and add this. Add one more to my counter. Now watch what happens. My counter now is at 3, and my INT days is at 2. Watch what the loop does. Watch what the loop does. It goes right to the return. It goes to the immediate line of code right after the loop. It fell out of it. It met that condition. I'm going to do until INT counter is greater than INT days. Makes sense? I go back up here. I'm going to display my total. Here we go. Boom, boom, boom. And voila, I think. There you go. 3 cents. All good? All good. Cool, cool, cool. Again, utilize that F11 stepping through debugging to do two things. Number one, debug your code, and number two, watch things work. Make sure it's working the way you think it's supposed to work, and learn from this, especially on these types of things. Okay, I get too many students avoiding how to debug, and it makes no sense to me because it will save you hours and hours of time if you learn how to debug. Okay, I hope you all know how to do it. It's just amazing to me how many students avoid learning how to do it. And it's the simplest thing in the world, and it will save you so much time. All right, let's go back to our code one more time. Or not, let's run our program one more time just for fun here. And so we had 5 days. And so after 1 week, little Susie, I think it's Susie, I have no idea what her name was, is 31 cents. So I asked you the question, would you take this job? So if you're going to only work for 5 days, I think the answer would be no, let's get the heck out of here. How about if you work for 10 days? How much will you accumulate then? A whole $10.23. If we think about it's 5 days each for each week. You get off a weekend, so there you go. Monday through Friday, 8 hours a day. You're going to work for $10.23, a nice average of $5 plus a few pennies here per week. Good enough? Is that good? Will that pay the rent? Will that pay the lunch and the tuition and the dog food and everything else everybody has? I'm not sure. So you're there for 10 days and you get paid every day and you're up to $10.23 accumulative after 10 days. Not sure you're thrilled about that. But you sit back and you hang in there and you say, you know, I'm going to work for another week. And here you go, after another week, things start looking better. Things start doubling up a little bit more. And here you are at $27.67. You go, okay, I worked 3 weeks here. I made 300 bucks, average of 100 bucks a week. Good money. I love it. I can now pay for, I don't know, maybe my one bedroom apartment. I'm not sure. You can't pay for a one bedroom apartment with that money. So I still think you probably have a problem. But for some reason, you're just determined. I'm going to stay. I'm going to stay. I'm going to make it into a month. So basically, 4 weeks here, 5 days. I'm going to make it a month. And I made $10,000 because things kept doubling every day. Well, that's not much. That's better. So if I get through a month, I just made 10 grand. 12 times 10 grand, that's $120,000 a year. That's not bad pay at all, right? You take that, yay. 1 month there, I made $10,000. I'm feeling good about myself. All right, well, now I'm doing that. So I like that now. I'm going to keep going. And, let's go to a month and a half. Yeah, we'll go to a month and a half, 30 days. And so that's actually about what? So 5 to 6 weeks, month and a half. And I have now made, wow, now I'm buying Lamborghinis, right? I made $10 million if I allow myself to start with a penny and keep doubling every day. My cumulative total pay after 6 weeks of work, that's what I'm coming with 30 days, is $10 million. Well, now you're getting greedy, and you said, you know what? I'm going to last this out. Let's go ahead and make it 2 months. And I now have made 10,995,116,277. I could probably retire. I think you could probably retire. I think you can. I don't know what your taste is and so on. But remember dear old Bob from your class that you might want to flip him a few cents who told you to stick to that job for at least 40 days and you'll be fine. Okay? Kind of a fun problem. But it all kind of works no matter how many days I put in there. The final thing I want to talk about is this little loop here. So we've done this with a do while loop, okay? But is it possible to do it with a different type of loop? And the answer is yes. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to use this for next loop, okay? So here's this for next loop, and I'm going to go ahead and put that there. So the for next loop. Now I don't need this counter piece anymore, so I'm just going to go ahead and take this out and or comment it out. I don't need, because this is automatically going to uh, declare it for me and initialize it. INT days, and as you see, I'm not accumulating anymore with the counter, okay? And so with that said, it all kind of works and it does the exact same thing. That's one line of code. So for next loops, once again, work with, I'm going to start it at 1, I'm going to go to the number of days, and everything should work the exact same way. And so you use a for next loop when you know how many times you want to loop through it. And in this case, we actually do. It's based upon our input, but we know how many times, 5 days, 10 days. And of course, what we want to get to is the 40 days. And there you go, same number. And so everything works. So there's some alternatives on how to actually write this. Can we do it with a do while loop? I will, but I won't bore you. But basically what we would say is do while int counter is less than or equal to int days. We could switch it around. Okay, so there is your first introduction, I should say, to the iterative structure. Only way you get to learn this stuff is you try it too. I wish you good luck. If you have issues, contact your instructor.